Are you good to go?
We're good to go.
All right, everybody, we're good to go in this budget workshop.
Okay.
Wrap up your conversations. Okay. I know, we need parties. Hi, Morgan. Hi, Amanda.
All right, so when last we met, we went through the budget presentation. I'm not gonna go through all of that again unless you really want me to. I really don't have anything changed. The only thing that I do have to share is a couple of versions of the levy with minor alterations based on some savings. Oh, we lost Amanda. Okay, so she's just muted. She's still there, so that's good. Some savings that Amanda had found in the MERS. So if you had looked through your budget and you noticed that there was a contingency line for MERS for $24,000. We only needed to hold on to about 4,000 of that. And we then needed to hold on to just a little bit more of that because there was a line. MERS is the municipal employees retirement
Yeah.
savings.
It's
It's the retirement fund for our non-unionized folks.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's their retirement fund. So that was put into the budget before those numbers were solid, and so that contingency was in there, so we weren't caught in a deficit with that fund. So the numbers did come in and they came in lower than was needed with that $24,000. So some of that money we can put back into the budget as a savings.
That's a reduction of what now?
It was a deduction. Let me show you. I'm gonna throw it up on the, that sounds terrible. I'm going to put it up. Hmm. You guys see that at home? Okay. So Amanda sends me an editable levy, which is super helpful. That allows me to play with the numbers. So this is our original levy that shows us where we were at. The 3.67, that's kind of what I presented last time. And then I'm able to play with options. Y'all saw those last year where Alan was just laughing and saying, are we up to like double A, double B, double C? For both those options, we're not going there this year. But what we can see in this version is a $20,000 savings from the MERS. So we took a $20,000 savings from that because we didn't need the full 24. We just needed 4,000 of that to remain. And then we took insurance from some of the reductions in the salary positions that were reduced. We didn't include the insurance savings from those positions. So there's a savings when those salaried folks take insurance. So we included that in this calculation.
Yeah.
So that's 21,840. So it's a 41,840 reduction that we're able to take out of the gate. So that's just a shift that we're able to make here, which is going to bring an automatic reduction. So now our bottom line number without any painful reductions is 3.5 gross,
3.5.
a 2.41 net,
Sharon, those previous productions were based on, planned retirements.
The previous, some of,
You were talking about salary and benefits reductions were.
yeah, some of them were, planned retirements. Some of them were, they were reductions for a variety of reasons. So, some of those reductions we would be talking about in executive session. Some of those reductions were, so like we know that we've had retirements, so Denise's position, that 0.4 position, was a retirement. The 0.8 PE position was a position where we have a staff person who's going to remain as a 0.2. But it's a similar situation that she has this year. She's working for Eastern, and so she's maintaining her 0.2 position here, so she's staying there. So we're keeping that deal with her for next year. I'd have to go back to the slide to look at the other ones. The CTE position that we budgeted for this year, and that we had a person in that position, we have had it posted to fill. Haven't been able to fill it, and we have actually been able to cover the course with the certificate. We had talked about the fact that we have a certified person in math who is CTE certified. So that person has taken over the manufacturing class and is now teaching the math for manufacturing and the manufacturing class because he holds the appropriate certification. So we've been able to be creative with our certifications in order to get there. So I can,
What is that, how does it, I mean, I know it's just more, but how does that change the percentages for the three?
so for the three towns, we're down now for Ashford is at 3.7. We go back to the original levy, it was at a 3.9. Mansfield was 2.15. Now it is 1.95. And Wellington is 2.45 now, and it was 2.65. Number wise. So Wellington was 128,528. And now it is 118,927. That's for Wellington.
So, just because we can't see
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
So
sorry.
what are the actual then dollar amounts? for
Yep. Okay, so the new dollar amounts for Ashford, is 154,207. That's a new dollar amount. 154,207. Mansfield is 237,343. And Wellington is 118,927.
Sorry, those numbers were what?
Yeah, what are?
There we go.
Those are increases or something? I
They're
thought they-
decreases.
Oh, they're the decrease.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, okay. All right.
I was looking at the bigger number going, oh.
that's the change from before in dollar terms.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
It's, raises down here, yeah.
So now with that all said. Amanda or Morgan, can you unmute for me? Because I forgot to check if we can hear you.
I can
Hello?
hear you. Oh, yep.
Nope. I can't hear you. Shoot.
You can't hear us? I can hear you, Amanda.
I can hear Morgan.
We heard Morgan before.
Did we?
Yep, and we heard Amanda. I don't know.
yeah, she was up there.
Yeah, she was up there, but I don't know. If you spoke.
there. She's under.
Well, we know they're there, but we can't hear them.
Yeah, I just want, normally I check to see if I can hear them.
We're only up to-
We could just use the chat.
Oh, there we go. We gotcha.
Okay, great.
Yes, I think she wants. Change the revenue sheets more so.
Yeah.
Workshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. I'm like, where did it all go? It's way over there.
News to the upper
Yep,
right.
it's that teeny tiny little thing in the corner.
Yeah, I can't see them.
That, yeah, two, but until we're at least three.
We're back. So I think part of the conversation last time, there were questions regarding the projections. Amanda is currently working on making some comparisons using real projections of our 8th graders. And I can let her talk about that a little bit. I know she was waiting on some numbers when we met today.
Yep, I've gotten the K through 8 projections for all 3 member towns. Sharon's staff is working to get me a breakout of each town by grade. We're waiting on a couple special ed numbers just to make sure those numbers are accurate, and then I'm going to be able to project those out based on what our current enrollment actually is. And then I'm going to take a new look at the 5-year projection. I know we talked about looking at those salary lines a little bit and some of the assumptions that go into that. Hoping to have that to you by the end of the week. If not, you'll definitely have it before the next time we meet to talk about budget.
So this is the non-proud Amanda
Yes.
projection?
Yes,
Got it.
and I'm happy to share the supporting documentation for the
Yeah, all
enrollment
right.
numbers.
I'm
Yep.
looking forward to that.
So
Yeah.
Amanda's
Okay.
playing around with the numbers.
Right,
She's out
Yes.
helping kids.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a meeting of the superintendents today, Tuesday, yesterday. With similar perspective on the Prouda numbers. Everyone was really on the same boat about the fact that there's questions about that.
Yeah.
And even I want to say, I don't remember if it was Ashford or Mansfield that had it done through Prouda and NESDEC.
What was the other one?
The NESDEC,
Oh, okay.
but the numbers in general seemed, oh no, it was Wellington. The numbers in Wellington were way off, between those two separate companies that ran the same information. So, I say that to the point of all of these numbers are projections. They're moving targets in general. Moving forward, when it comes to putting together the budget book, I think we have to make some decisions for the future about what we actually want to include, what pages and what numbers are actually useful to you all as a board in making decisions, like what do we want front facing in making decisions, like what do we want to know about per pupil expenditure? How do we want to represent that in a way that's clear and transparent to the community that's actually going to tell them what they need to know? And it may be a shift to what historically and traditionally has been included in the book, but I think that may not necessarily be the conversation that we need to have right now. But coming out of budget season, taking a look at the book and maybe eliminating some of those pages that really don't give us quality information.
We are still planning to have a special retreat on this issue,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, that's what she's.
Because I do think that with respect to the levy on the towns who are voting on the budget should know what the cost per student is, how it translates to the amount they're paying, because that number is a lot higher than the number we were showing in the earlier page here. It was over 20,000, it was over 21,000. So, yeah, I think in the future, we need to show that. People need to see that. I also think, and I know, I just want to reiterate that I also think regardless of whatever else we're doing, if what we see shows, and I think it will, some level of declining enrollment, at least over the next several years, that we really need to rethink, or we need to think hard about continuing to have, kinds of increases we've seen year to year when there's declining enrollment. I mean, we have over 50, I think, less this year. I mean, there are people that could argue that why are we going up at all, about 50 less students? I mean, there's good reasons for that.
Mhm.
But if we go down another 50, you know, if that 100 is anywhere,
Mhm.
then it becomes a really important discussion we'd have to have.
When we presumably saw it coming.
Right,
Yeah,
right. When
we can't say surprise, 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 so many
Yes.
years in a row, right? So you said there was a retreat plan for that?
We
Well,
talked
we
about
talked about,
at the last meeting.
yeah, instead of trying to
When-
change,
Said
well-
try to deal with it now, do it after.
Yeah, what was the?
I think we were having the discussion about the budget, right, last time?
Yeah.
And I think we were, you guys were here figuring we were all on Zoom and I think it was suggested at that point that we just need to go back as a group to the drawing board and say,
Structure
how do we want to restructure this? Yeah,
outside of this year's
Right.
budget.
Right,
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So whether that happens spring, fall, or whatever, there is that October 1 date. So at some point, that would be like another time to sort of,
Yeah.
okay, what did we
Right.
get for the October?
I would
1?
like to have
Yeah.
that happen soon
And
after
it's sort
the
of a-
budget.
Yeah.
A check-in on, yeah, we can look at the structure and then recheck in.
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, say, okay, based on the Crowder numbers, the Amanda numbers, actual numbers, what are we looking at?
Yeah, and
I think spring makes more reasonable sense to at least get started.
Structure, yeah,
Yeah.
understood, yeah, no, I don't.
But I think beyond that, I mean, what's important is I wanted a sense of where that 115 came from, and I'm really interested to see
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Amanda says, and I think
That's
we don't even, like, we're getting way ahead of ourselves in terms of even having that conversation and doing that retreat. I mean, I'd be very interested to see what Amanda comes up with and what it
Yeah.
is, where that
Yeah.
115 came from.
Well, even if it's half that number, though, it would be significant based on.
Well, yeah, I would be very interested to see what the layout is.
And that's why I think it is really important not to let that slide another year before we really have to start having those discussions.
Is, sorry, I was there. The 115 is the enrollment number, right?
The enrollment.
Next year.
There was some projection that showed that.
Right, and it's.
We're vetting that.
Like,
now.
how accurate is that? No, but I wanted to make an observation, because I can still remember what it was like, not to be on the board, and so like, I wanted to talk about, when last, I think it was a month ago or so, when we were talking about this, there was, I saw that there was the total amount for the budget. And then, while I was sitting there, I did this, I did the math, the enrollment is at the bottom of the page. Right, and so the budget, the full budget is at the top, the enrollment is at the bottom, and I did this little math while I was sitting there, like the per pupil number, and I was thinking, but I was looking at the projections like going up about 3% every year. Which kind of makes sense because, it's not like, even if there's fewer students, it's not like the building costs less, it's not like the salaries is less or anything. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, just even like being a homeowner, I know that, there's.
Just because the
that-
kid moved out.
It doesn't matter, right? So like, maybe your groceries are a little less, right? But no, so I was thinking, is there a way? But because, because like the enrollment is wild. Like, I mean, it's gonna go up and down, and actually it's been going down for years. And so I was thinking, is there a way, or I don't know if this is like state statute or anything, is there a way to remove the enrollment from that total budget, or is that just ludicrous?
As a number, meaning that we go.
In other words, well, it's just that, I mean, it's not exactly on here that way, although if you flip some pages, eventually you get to like per pupil number.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking like that's, maybe we're like,
I think this is all that structural budget conversation that we wanna have, because
yeah,
there's some things I think baked into what Min does, just sort of cost of living adjustments on the top line, that
Yeah.
aren't really connected to the numbers down below, right? So
right.
maybe we can figure out a way to connect them in some way, you know,
If
because
they're
there is.
connectable,
What's that?
if they're connectable.
Well, they are, it's a matter of how much they're, there's definitely there's definitely a connected, right? It's just to what degree they are, right? Is it a fraction of it? You know, it's not linear. It's not like they go up down exactly, but some. And at some level, right? It's sort of incremental. You know, you can't like taper and, you know, a quarter for a teacher and for, you know, you can't like, get a fraction.
But maybe it matters now, like, because we are, you know, there's no rolling averages yet or anything, like, you know, maybe in the future we'll have rolling averages and it won't be so painful. But like right now,
So that will fix this problem.
it's not gonna fix.
But I think the per pupil number we were talking about is like that high number that won't really be affected, but this is all, yeah, it's all good stuff, and it's interesting you bring an observation to having sort of been looking at it from that perspective. 'Cause
Well,
I think that's what you've been bringing up too, is that for people.
We're bringing it up for a couple of years.
Yeah.
If we continue having declining enrollment. And we see. Pretty significant budget
Yep.
increases, it starts to beg the question of, you start needing to look closer at class size and the course, I mean.
Yeah.
I hate to say that,
Class size,
but
course, right.
at some point you have to start looking at those.
We do, we're opening up revolt.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to point out though, that when I did the numbers per pupil, number. Like if I did the inverse and I took the lower, the lower enrollment number. And then multiplied it by like last year's. Like I don't know, anyway, the budget would go down like $3 million or something. In other words, like, it's an impossibility, like there's no way.
Right.
You're
It's-
using the
it's-
per student cost. for the
It's
next-
not a equivalency thing, but if you have, I'm just gonna throw this out, if for some reason you have 100 less students. I don't see how you can have a budget over $1 million. So, I mean, those are the types of things we have to pay attention, and that's a pretty extreme example, but it was based on some projections that were out there that people saw. And they're gonna go crazy if they see, you know, 100 less people and you're going up $1 million. We can't do that. So we have to figure out how to fix that and understand what's going on. Really.
Well, and I think, I mentioned to Sharon, I think one of the things that we, you know, and this is for this later discussion, I think in some ways we have to try to simplify the presentation because I believe, and I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I just think that when we give people too much information, it's information overload, and people don't want that. People say, you know, my groceries are going up. I want to pay less of my taxes. This is going to make my, you know, my yearly taxes go through the roof. And I don't want to vote for it. And I need to just see the simple,
What does
you
it
know,
mean?
what, yeah,
What is it?
just clear English, easy.
I,
Because I think we overwhelm people and they're not, you know, and we overwhelm our director of finance, we overwhelm other people in our, you know, in the offices in terms of trying to get the, you know, we're looking fully.
I think we need to capture in some way, what I'm kind of hearing is we need to figure out a way to capture the reality, which is, to Greg's point, which is, it costs a certain amount of money to run the district. That
Right.
doesn't change regardless of the number of students. You know, we've reduced staff this year based on the class size. And to the point that Amanda made in the last meeting was the reductions that we've made this year based on class size wasn't based on the reductions that I'm seeing for this projected year. It was based on probably 5 years of slow decreases in enrollment over time that now has gotten us to a place where over several disciplines, over several subjects, we can take a reduction of a staff person because
That's the last.
over the last 5 years or so. because there are courses that are below or have enrollments less than 10. So that say that was my gauge, less than 10. Now, that comes at a cost, a different cost, not a financial cost, but a programmatic cost. And so those are the conversations that we need to have around, we can say we can't sustain, $1 million increase in our budget at that 3% to run the building and pay our staff. But what happens further to enrollment if we allow our program to be damaged so much
That
that-
we become unattractive.
that we continue to then lose more students to magnet schools, tech schools, or, those pieces. So where's that balance?
Well, I mean, I
Because
think-
the goal is, let's attract more kids to the district, so that we can maintain the high quality programs and even grow them.
I think that's what we've been trying to do, but I think what's happened is with these projections we show in the budget every year that show declining enrollments and bigger than people are willing to accept increases just as numbers. That confuses the issue.
Yeah.
That's why we
Yep.
have to present things differently. We have to get our arms around it, because we know that's a very complicated process. It's not just a question of it costs this much to run the school, whether we have 800 or 900 or 1,000 students. There are certain things that are affected by the number of students, but a lot of things that aren't.
Mhm.
And I think that the way we presented data in the past has kind of skewed that towards a kind of a false.
Yeah, but can I also say
Somebody
though,
wants to
I mean,
speak. Who's
can you hear
talking?
me?
Morgan.
Oh, Morgan, yeah. I would say we had a big increase last year for Ashford. And,
Hold on,
oh, you
Morgan, we
can't
got-
hear me?
Hold on, Morgan, we gotta
Oh.
increase the volume. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
Can you hear me?
Soundbar isn't connected.
This one, yeah.
Hold on, we're working on the technology.
I'm happy to shout. I can do that.
Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Got Nick on it.
Okay.
Your selection from the computer.
Keep talking so we can tell.
Okay, I'll keep talking. You can see if we
Your
can.
speaker selection changed too.
How's it working now?
It's
Not
the
good.
same.
It's
Speaker
good?
selection.
No,
Oh,
it's the
not
same.
good, not good.
Not good? Okay, I
Okay.
can write
You're
it.
coming out of the back of the machine.
Get all you techies up here.
That's it. Can you check audio?
I mean, I can also just say it and someone can
So
repeat
now
it.
this is on.
Does someone just
So-
want to repeat it for me?
All right, are you
Yeah,
using it
Go to
though?
Bluetooth.
Okay.
That's the different one because of,
Is it one of these other ones?
Hey, Sharon.
yeah,
All I wanted to say was I think
Yeah.
that the concerns are not just about the projections. It's about, what happened in Ashford last year with the big.
yeah,
increase.
hold on 1 second, Morgan, because you keep muting in and out because they're playing, we're playing with the.
Okay.
We're determined here, Morgan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna forget what I was
Bluetooth or is that
wanting to
connected?
say.
Hang on to it.
I basically wanted to just see what the other options
Tried
were.
all those.
You tried all that?
Yeah, we can try them again, but.
Is that
maybe not
real,
the
that
other.
real tech audio?
Which one?
You tried that one?
Where's this?
That's the system, but yeah, I mean, it's the same as what we're using now, but.
It's weird because I feel like they could hear me when I talked.
Well, we can barely.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, I guess lesson learned about the audio on the Zooms. I hate to slow everything down. I was trying to speed it up. Now I can't hear anything.
I
Can you?
can't hear anything, no. Oh no. Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we just need to leave and come back. Can they, do you have Sharon's phone number?
Yeah, I'm gonna text her.
Yeah, I'll just text Deb and say, we'll leave and come back and, yeah.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Yes.
We've been the full way.
can
Sorry,
you,
I
can you
missed
hear
you.
us?
Because so you don't.
No, did we touch this down here?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
And now there's some.
Can you hear us?
But I'm saying you're paying the same.
Yes.
So if you don't
Can you
have
hear us?
kids and you're in the town.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
you're paying-
You guys say
Yes.
something?
You're paying
Okay.
whatever the rate is, right?
Yeah.
Can you hear
Yes,
us?
we
Can you do it now? We can't.
All right, try now.
Whether your neighbor has 8 kids, that
Can you
makes.
hear us now?
There you go. We just need you to yell.
Okay.
Okay,
There's a point at which we just have to run the school efficiently and we have to show.
so,
Sharon,
Hold on.
you just may need to repeat the question.
Yeah. Okay.
You're sitting next to the speaker.
Okay. She's gonna try to talk now.
yeah, so I will just make it really brief. I think the issue is not just the projections, it's just generally declining enrollment. I mean, this year we have increased revenues and declining enrollment, and yet we're still projecting, we're just still, proposing an increase. So I think we just need to really get our arms around that in a retreat. And so I was going to ask Sharon to share some of the other options with us so we could see what we have to work with.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, the last.
Other options as in cuts, do you mean?
Well, it looks in the spreadsheet like there are other options, the option 1, option 2.
Yeah. There's some. Do we have those tonight or is that next week's? So I can show you some. I don't want to talk about, because we talked last time about if.
Oh,
sorry.
Not here, we can't.
They want
Um,
to know the different options that exist.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Like we did
because
this-
there's, well, she said there's different options at the bottom, so she's asking
Beyond
about
this.
those options, which is a wonderful question.
Okay.
Because there are options. The options are connected to, I'll show you option 2. I may not be ready to talk about some of the other options because they might be connected to positions. And we talked about that last time, that if we're gonna talk about positions,
Yes.
there's pros and cons to doing that.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of things pending that.
Right.
Affect those decisions. Right, correct. So this option 2 is if we decided that we really didn't want to do summer athletics. So that is not a have to have, but it's a nice to have. And it was something that was important to the board last year, not necessarily as a whole, but at least to some board members last year. You heard Dan's proposal or his presentation. There was data that supported that there were some good things that came out of it. There was some data that said there were some concerns about it. So really, it is up to the board as to whether or not that's something that wants to that should continue. That would bring us to a reduction of $71,840 if we look back up. I gotta stop touching that.
Is that with everything then? Is that?
That's with the other 2 items as well.
Okay,
So that's
yeah.
everything combined. So sure.
So this is in addition.
So that's in addition to the 20,000,
Okay.
yep. So, yeah. And I'm forgetting that you can't see this tiny.
No,
Down to the
no.
bottom.
You zoom in and scroll.
I can, but then it'll probably turn into a little teeny tiny thing on the top of the page.
Online, they can probably see it.
Yeah, so it includes the 20,000 in MERS,
Yeah.
the 21,840 in insurance, and the 30,000 in summer athletics. That's already budgeted and operating right now. So if you reduced that, it would get a 71,840 in reductions. That's growling happening. There, did you hear that? I'm letting it out.
I know, really. We're back here.
That was growling.
These things are supposed to be.
She told me I need to let it out. So that gets us to a 338 gross. A 227 net. So 338, 227. And then for Ashford, their number would now be reduced to 148,234. And their percent increase is 3.56.
Sharon, is that right?
Yeah, that's, wait, so,
The 48, I don't see how it could go down 148.
No.
When we're only taking
No,
70.
down two. Okay, right?
to
Down.
what?
That's the further decrease. It's not. Oh, it's still.
It was 154. Now it's
still
148.
Less.
It's less.
148 is the lower increase from the previous years.
Could you
Oh, it's the lower increase, okay,
Yeah, we went from like 170 to 160 to 140 something.
okay,
In terms of the increase over,
Okay,
in
got it.
dollar terms.
Thank goodness, because the machine does the work for me. And you would have to make me do math.
So, could you just go through option one, cost per town?
Hold on one second. I will.
Thank
Well, option one is our levy problems.
And then there's two additional options.
And there's two additional options. So
So option one on there is different than the left.
Right, option one, yep, option one is different than.
So we got the OG,
Yep, so option one would have gotten us to 3.5%.
overall.
Yep, so option one was a total decrease of 41,840. That was just the 20K MERS and the 21,840 insurance. For a total of 41,840. That was option one. That got us to a 3.5 gross and a 2.41 net. That got Ashford to 3.7 dollars. It was 154,207 for Ashford.
Do you have the total? Like, not the change, but just the total number, like,
I do. Do you want me to finish going through these first, or do you want me you want me to jump up to the total proposed amount?
I'd like the total at some point, but if you're doing something like.
No, I'll give you what you want.
Just the total, so the total cost per town for option one as it's seen on the screen, and then option two that we're looking at right now.
The total cost per town,
Or-
so not the change,
Correct.
the
total
levy per
per-
town. Is, so for Ashford, it's 4,317,319.
Okay.
For Mansfield, it's 12,390,949,
Okay,
and for Wellington, it's 4,975,893.
And that's option one.
That's option one.
Okay, and at revision one, there's a change.
Right,
reduction
it's,
from the
yeah,
following.
it's revision one. That's a
Right.
41,840 reduction.
Yep.
And then this is option two.
Then-
But that's with losing the summer athletics.
That's option one or two?
That's option two. Option two loses summer. Option one doesn't really lose anything. Option one is kind of not even an option. Option one is like,
the new,
we found some savings.
So those levies, they were for option one?
Those were option one levies that I just read off to Nick.
So you'll figure out option two after.
Option two levies are right here. So
Yeah.
option two levy is, for Ashford, it's 4,311,346. Mansfield levy is 12,373,806. Willington levy is 4,969,009.
To me, and this is just me, this doesn't seem to be much of a drop at all.
It's small, no, it's small money.
I mean, like, I don't even know that you could make a case for.
Well, I think the case would not be based on the budget, it would be based on whether, given what we heard from, we want to continue. or something.
Well, for option one, it's not making the case, it's just true.
Yeah, option one is, option one is
It's gonna
just,
happen.
yeah. Option one is, we
It's the new
found some
baseline.
savings, that's
New
the
base.
new, this is our new base.
What do we chip away?
Yeah, and we kind of knew going in that number was either gonna, that MERS number was either gonna stay the same, it was gonna increase, or it was gonna decrease, so we were happy that it decreased, that we were able to take a savings there.
That's not even chipping away, so that's
No,
just
I don't
given,
think so.
Right.
given the,
Right.
so latest information.
But that reduction is not substantial, even with the loss of the summer programs.
No, it's not.
No, no.
No, I mean, it's a gesture.
Which gestures would be good right now.
Gesture.
You know,
for
I
good.
think what was very, well, I will say, and I don't know how other people felt about this, but, you know, Tony pointed out too. The reports that were sent by. There's a couple additional documents that were sent to all of us. It was just on, on the math. About, you know, who was, you know, achieving, who was greater than, you know, it's by town. I think the challenge in Ashford, I don't know how it is in Wellington or Mansfield, but the challenge in Ashford is that for every dollar we spent here, we're not spending it in Ashford.
Yep.
And we keep reducing the Ashford budget, so that disparity concerns me, it gets wider, it doesn't get smaller. It gets wider, the resources I don't think are there. To even help to sustain or bring up or help to, you know, at least establish, more courses, more rigor, whatever you wanna call it, you know,
Mhm.
that's my concern. So we're playing the game
That's fair.
and Ashford's a partner and is paying, and I think it's important that Ashford, Willington and Mansfield, we're paying for the capital budget, we're paying for the, you know, the school. The other towns don't, so, you know, even my question starts to become too, when we look at what we charge when people are sending students here, are we charging too little? But then we wanna stay competitive.
Well, right, but we're also not charging for transportation
Yes.
and for special ed services.
Right.
I think the other thing
Yes.
that the other thing we have to remember, and I think I brought this up last time, but we also don't want to dwell on it too much. We don't want to dwell on it too much.
Right.
Is we've never really broken down or had conversations about more truth. About the different programs
Right.
that are offered
Right.
and the, what the breakdown is. You know, we know that it varies from year to year, how many students from Ashford, Willington, or Mansfield are outplacements that impact our special education
Right.
program. There are, and you know, from year to year, there are more expensive outplacements from the individual towns, depending.
Right.
There are more students in, you know, at Depot. As a per pupil expenditure in a program that's more, individualized. And from one town than the other. We're a little balanced in that this year. There were a few years where there was definitely, you know, one town there than the other town. It ends up in the end very much balancing out. Same with the STAR program.
Yeah.
And so I think we just have to be careful with all of that.
Oh, I
Because
know.
in the
Yeah.
end, it all balances out.
Do you live here?
He feels like he does.
Can we would audio
You've
test
been
from
in this building.
participants, please? Morgan,
Sometimes I want-
Amanda, audio check.
Yeah, could we have somebody on mute and
Hello? Is that working? Yes, okay, good.
Ending, hello.
Sharon, I would like to add one other thing to that, and this is because it came up one of my early years on the board.
Mhm.
In addition to those programs, we also have advanced programs that many people can't take advantage of. It's largely town driven.
Mhm.
And one of my early years on the board, there was an actual proposal put on the table to cut back the depot program in order to continue some of those advanced programs with that UConn was saying we were gonna have to pay for.
Mhm.
Now, it turned out that we called their bluff and it didn't happen.
Right.
But that discussion was kind of ugly.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And so that's another factor that don't want to talk about it too much, but it has to be considered.
Right, and it's, you know, when we talk about acceleration, which we've talked a lot about, especially with the math presentation, that acceleration piece really came into discussion specifically around our data that shows disparity between opportunity for some of our member towns and some of the students from our member towns based on the programs that are able to be offered for a lot of the reasons that we're talking about right now in regards to the funding that they have available.
Right.
I think a fair question around that, though, is connected to the enrollment drops to say we dropped more than the depot enrollment. Why aren't they here and why are we renting another building? Right? I think that's a legitimate question. And we can talk about the pros and cons of that. I think that is a legitimate question to be discussed, not maybe for this year, but it needs to be.
Well, that's from a financial standpoint, not taking into account all the other reasons, but right, it is,
Yeah, but
but that's a
there's
fact.
actually
That is a fact.
pros and cons of
Yeah.
that. I think there's both. It's not like everything's negative and it's just a financial call. We can talk about it, but I think that is a fair thing to bring up and something that I think we should get ahead of
Mhm.
and be thinking about because it would be a legitimate question someone might ask. Why are we have this building for the building group when you have so much more room here, with that quotes, that kind of thing. So you gotta look at all options here.
I agree in the future because right now I'm not aware of any spare rooms here.
But from an external perspective.
Right, understand.
You are not managing, I'll
Yeah.
just say, you're not managing the building correctly if you are down 100 kids.
Yeah.
And there are no spare rooms, right? That's sort of a.
You go from 17 kids in class to 15.6.
Well, I'm just saying, it's a fit, absolutely a fair question. We should be not pushing back in that question. Yeah, okay, yep, we should have thought of that and
Yes.
be ready to answer it. If we're not gonna do that, we should have an answer for it.
Sure.
So I think all of these things, as we kind of create the list of conversation for the retreat, I think those are all things that, we do have to have answers for.
Can I add one more thing? Sorry, not with jabbering, but one, I think it would be useful to be able to differentiate costs. It's a little tricky, but cost of content and increases the cost of living from what we're buying, right? So buying less bananas, but they're more expensive. Okay, those are two different things, right? The kid moved out, grocery bill's down, but everything's more expensive. And so it didn't go down because the cost went up. We're actually eating less. You know what I'm saying? So it might be a way to, as we talk about presenting this, to differentiate the things that went up in
Yeah.
cost and to show that, well, yes, we're finding ways to use less or whatever it might be in somewhat proportion, but yet costs are going up.
So we can do that. I think one of the things that, when you look at our departments and you look at their stuff and you see over the whole time that I've been here, this is my 6th budget. I just kind of thought about that today. I'm like, this is my 6th budget. The first one was so easy. Really was. We just came out of COVID. We were swimming in COVID money. Over the years,
You mean like supply costs?
the supply costs, yeah.
Yeah,
So
take credit for that.
over the years, I've asked every department to come in flat. And do not ask for more money for your stuff, please, unless it's absolutely necessary. Like if you need books, that's different than stuff. That has a different line, right? So for their materials, for the most part, they've remained relatively flat. We know that the cost of all those materials, especially this year,
Sure.
tariffs, all of that stuff have gone up. We look at Dennis's lines have gone up a little bit because his costs have gone up so much that he couldn't absorb all of those costs completely. So it's a really good
Just
point,
data.
but just by the nature of, when you look at all of those lines not having increased at all over the past 6 years, they've done more with less for the past 6 years in their content lines of their materials, even in the food lines for culinary. It's amazing what he's been able to do with his food lines and
I
culinary.
also think we need to talk about all those things,
Yeah.
because I don't think we have to the degree we need to, because in the current year budget, we really can't, but that's why having a retreat will help. Because we do need to talk about all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, rising costs, tariffs, I mean, those have to be factored in.
I almost need a public, a public packet, that compresses all this stuff into understandable pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, PR has it.
That's a good, I think that's a good point. The thing with the cost of living though, I know we have to talk about it to some degree, but how valid are we gonna be? You look at what's happening right now. I mean, like, our prediction of what that's gonna be.
For the enrollment,
Cost of living.
or for the
For
cost of
next
living.
year, yeah. Cause you know, when I say, I guess I didn't make myself real clear. I said, I don't think we have to bring it up. That's not exactly what I mean, but I don't know how we can be accurate with that.
Hmm.
It would be a huge effort to be like fully sort of accounting accurate.
Yes,
But maybe we just pick a couple areas just to sort of samples of saying,
that, for example,
or just pick a few, just to show, I mean,
Right.
I don't think you're right. You can't, everything, some things don't go up, some go up
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than others.
yeah.
It's
But
gotta
as
be-
part of the story, we gotta be able to, we
Like
gotta.
the consumer price index, right?
Right.
The consumer price index is based on a certain selection of
Right,
things,
right,
not
right.
everything.
Right,
Call that an analogy.
Right.
So, and Amanda, the consumer price index, is that different than the index that we use
Student
to
price index.
increase our tuition?
That's good. That's good.
You're muted.
Our tuition is based on what's included in our budget.
No, so, but the number that, is it Lucianne? No, it's,
Just
who?
Patricia.
Thank you. Who, the number that she gets in the fall to generate the percentage increase for our tuition.
There are a couple contracts that do go with CPI, and then there's a couple where we calculate it annually based on the approved budget. Again, some of those towns have different agreements set up. But that would be the number that we're using for those tuition rates.
Right, so the CPI this year was just under 4%, wasn't it?
Yep. Correct.
And that was that's the percentage increase for, that's Columbia, Eastford, Union.
Yep. The ones that have agreements, go back to the CPI, and then there's a couple that we calculate on an annual basis. I do think it's correct to say, though, the amount our supplies haven't gone up. Your drivers are salary, your drivers are health insurance, your drivers are utilities. It's not the supplies that are causing the increases.
Well, I don't think there was a focus on supplies because we could even look at health insurance and show that it went
Yeah,
up. We're not
yeah.
consuming more of it. It just went
Or
up, right? So I think
utilities.
those are all fair examples.
Yeah.
We weren't
Yeah.
meaning to focus
Yeah.
on supplies. you know.
Utilities is.
Yeah, yeah, but salaries that's one that's sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
That's actually. a decent-
Salaries and
it's-
benefits,
It's 2/3 of the total budget, I think,
Right.
roughly, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that that's understood exactly and that. it's
Right.
To a great degree contractually out of our control, right?
the only way it's in our control is when we replace a senior person who leaves.
Right,
Someone
or eliminate
staff.
positions, right?
Or when we renegotiate.
Well, we negotiate.
In the structure of directors and who are non-teaching faculty, right? So,
Right.
so you have a couple.
Right.
Courses missing.
Right, right.
How many classes does a typical teacher teach?
Most, science teaches, 4 and a lab.
And the director salaries are how much more than than a sort of
They,
staff person?
they are, I think at 124. And the highest teacher salary, I'm trying, I don't have them off the top of my head. I think the highest teacher salary is, that's at a 6th year. So we don't have a lot of, oh, that's not true. We do
There are
have
some.
PhDs. We have PhDs in our science department. I think PhDs this year is, 109.
And how many classes do directors teach?
They don't. They can if we need them to. They can teach up to one class if they need to.
And we have how many directors?
4.
But aren't
Well,
all the
4 plus
directors-
the special ed, there's a special ed director.
Yeah.
There's the director of school counseling and there's the athletic director.
When did the directors come on board? Like, when did that shift happen?
They were here before I got here.
Yeah.
The shift in their not
Oh,
teaching
that part, yeah.
happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
And why was that? For
That
review
was,
purposes?
that was because there was, a shift in oversight for evaluation.
That's what I was thinking, is the evaluation, so there,
Yeah.
because those four do.
They do, well, there was also a shift in, so what was happening was there was inconsistency in instructional oversight.
Yeah.
Part of that was because the assistant principals and the principal were largely responsible for evaluating a good number of the staff. It's all a really great idea until there's an emergency or, you know, something that has to happen and you have this great evaluation plan and, or pre-conference or post-conference. And you get called away and the process has to start all over again. So there was really inconsistency in the evaluation process.
There's approximately 100 teachers. rough numbers, right?
About, yeah, 108, 110,
Okay.
somewhere around there. And what this allowed, and so the directors then consolidated and took over oversight of additional departments. So science took over oversight of health and PE and CTE. Social studies took over oversight of world language because the department heads that got a small stipend weren't evaluators. They kind of took care of budget and like would run department meetings. And over time, we've kind of absorbed those and even more so this year. As part of the budget, my last budget presentation, you can see with the world language, that position's being absorbed. And let's see, so where was I? Social studies absorbed world language, math absorbed CTE, and
Fine arts does moving.
English does fine arts, so music and art. So that's when that happened. So they basically took on a couple different departments and now they evaluate everyone and they don't necessarily get called away. It's much more consistent oversight. They also help out with their PLCs, so they're present in their PLCs more consistently throughout the day. It's just more effective and consistent leadership that they're able to provide.
And how many department heads?
We now, right now, this year.
Yeah.
There's world language and PE and ag.
So 3.
There's 3.
And with
Next year, there will be 2. There'll be PE and ag. You have to have ag.
Yeah, that's a given.
yeah,
And they
It's
teach
statutory.
classes.
They teach classes.
Yeah.
They teach 4 classes.
and what's the
Right now, they can teach 3 or 4. Right now, they all teach 4.
what's the department head salary?
It's, off the top of my head, it's like 124, I think.
Same
Not
as
sure where it's gonna-
same as directors.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, department heads are their teachers.
Right.
It's their teacher salary plus a 72, next year it would be $7,200 stipend.
$7,200.
Yeah, for these programs.
No, I think personally from historically, you know, and this is before Sharon and before Jill, and this is going back a ways, but you know, evaluations are something that, you know, most people don't like to do. And there are teachers that, you know, instructors, very good, but also who never got evaluated. You know, nobody ever got into their classroom. And so it was a historic thing that I think that really needed to be taken care of.
Well, especially given the state mandates around how evaluation is supposed to be.
And that got
conducted.
thrown in. Yeah, so yeah, that was always.
It was pretty much a free for all.
Yeah.
It was impossible to evaluate everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot. So at any rate, so I think that, you know, we needed a structure that allowed, now, is this the best structure? I don't know. That's it, you know, that's the, you know, Sharon and the administration.
The value served piece, I think the consistent leadership has been
Yeah.
really important. I mean, the fact that they've been able to oversee and really get into PLCs has been huge. For good, bad, or otherwise. And what I mean by that is, with that oversight comes accountability, and that is welcomed with varied degrees of.
Yeah.
Right, of exceptions.
Do other schools use, like vice principals to do that work?
Do evaluations.
To the evaluative?
Sometimes, yeah. Yep. They do.
I mean, too, right? And there's slightly different portfolios. We have like Dave Tanner, but and I don't know their. I'll find out more.
Yeah.
It's not a question for every year.
Yeah, they, in some schools do, but again, you know, having been in those, in all of those roles, assistant principal, dean, principal, it was frustrating for me, it was frustrating for teachers when I had evaluations set up and I didn't make it. Right. And all of their hard work, they had to start from scratch with their lesson plans and all that stuff.
Okay, I think we're going to have to come up with a reduction plan. I think the conversation is great. I think this would be like our, our planned retreat. I'm wondering what people feel their communities want to see cut. I think we need to come up with some proposals for how can we cut this, or have we done our best?
How much do you think, and I think maybe the different communities are really different, because the people that I'm listening to in Mansfield really want the quality to go up.
Well,
And
yeah,
quality costs things, and so like, instead of if we're thinking if we have to cut, maybe there's ways to also think about selling the budget to towns in terms of quality. So for example, instead of a summer athletic program, which I think it has great things, we can say, we can cut this if you want. Sure, but we do need, I think from those math scatter plots, I was studying that pretty carefully. Like it would be great to have a summer pre-high school program for students who have math talent, from districts or from school systems that, for whatever reason, don't have the resources maybe to prepare their students in the same way that everybody else does. I think that's really important. That's a question of equity, right? And so that should be a summer program. That's going to cost something because you have staff busing, maybe, maybe it's an optional program. We can kind of tweak it in the same way that athletics.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
We want our quality, we want our equity.
Mhm.
I'd love the math proposal.
Yeah.
That was beautiful information. But I personally would like to see it more geared toward bringing kids who are not your honors. When I ask the question, who's here?
Right.
Let's keep our quality and let's also keep our equity. However, you and I are talking about more money. And I think we're going to have to propose this. We have to know what would people in our communities want to cut? Do they want to cut administrative things like our directors and again, we need these people. People don't understand. And also when you say, like, the first time I heard about the summer sports program, not being a sports person, I thought, do they really need it? And you know what? I think it's not my opinion of the sports. It really was great for a lot of kids. It really was. So I'm just asking people to think, what can we do? I love your idea, and we already talked about this the last time, about having some talking points that Amanda could, put together and you.
Well, that's what Kathy was saying.
Yeah,
that we need to have a promotional.
But what are we doing? Why are we spending the money?
Well, it has to be about quality.
Yes.
Too, and that's the word we've talked a lot about, like programmatic benefits.
Exactly.
But I think like to just say quality and to ask people to remember that a community depends on its school. People I know haven't moved here. I can count 7 families that chose West Hartford over Mansfield. And that means that they're not there, which is a loss, right? That means fewer things to do in town. Like there's less just simply fewer people here. And so it feeds on one another. And so even if you're a taxpayer with Zoom kids, you should want your high school to be really good.
And I think Wellington and Ashford feel the same way. And I think that still, we need to be thinking about, we can't go out with just our first round and have, okay, that's it.
Are you referring to this year's budget?
Yeah.
So sure.
I think Tim's been trying to.
Yeah.
say that for a while.
So I think it's an important point to be made from the perspective of some of the towns that have building planning for yours to say, well, they might say, well, I know you want to increase the quality of education by increasing the region budget, but by doing that, you're saying, hey, we can make up for the downfalls that are further created by increasing the budget. So it's sort of a bit of a snowball problem where
Yeah.
we'll take more of your money. You're not saying that, I get that.
Yeah.
But we'll take more of your money and then make up for your educational shortcomings by adding a course on our side. And they might look like, well, wait a minute, why don't we just fund,
Add the course.
allow the towns to do the education by not just keeping swinging that perception, that percentage of the budget they only have so much of, make more of it goes to the region. So
Yeah.
we just be sensitive to that, where we're trying to convince them, no,
Yeah.
we're gonna handle it all here. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're trying to get our kids ready without, so you don't have to do that.
Yeah. Should also, I mean, I think that it would be wise to have like the Mansfield school district here, Wellington and Ashford, the community schools.
And I
Because
have ideas too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that, well, I mean, but the sort of like it's a sort of one or the other. Because that's actually not where the budgets always get cut, are they? Or maybe that's like Ashford Council or Wellington Council cuts
Teacher.
Their
their
percentage,
own.
they have to cut the
Schools.
teachers when we increase our budget, yeah.
But is that just because they choose their education to cut or is it our?
Because they have
So
no,
education makes up
no money.
they're
Right.
80+% of the town budget, right? So there's not much else to cut.
Right, not much else they do.
And there's no commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's a thought, I mean, I just throw this out there because, picking up on some things we said and then, also what you said, Kathleen. Was that, and we're talking about talking points, and so, if I remember correctly, in Ashford in 7th or 8th grade. The kids were expected to take 2 math classes if you wanted to take that next step, so they had a math course that they took, and then I don't even know if this is still the case. But,
Yeah, they said.
But, and then they had to, so my kids, took 2 math classes in 8th grade in order to be able to place into a more advanced course here at EO. However, if they were able to have taken, an additional math class over the summer, then they could have stepped up even an additional course. And so if there was a way to sell that, we're gonna run this summer program and we're paying for this summer program and we're trying, and the budget's staying constant, we're not gonna cut anymore.
Right.
But we're gonna to put this in place so that kids can come up and take that course before actually entering, if they choose, obviously, before they actually enter into 9th grade.
It's just a hypothetical in the next budget year. We're not talking about
Yeah,
trying to
well,
put something together for this.
I'm just trying to talk about selling points. How do you convince
Yeah.
people that with the increase, this gradual increase, how do we kind of convince them that this is part of that quality education that we all want, they want too. We want that in Ashford's, the elementary, K through 8 school.
Right.
So how do we kind of try to help prepare our students better and then also maintain our budget so that we can hear, so that we can, we're not hurting.
Well, let's,
I
But
think
there is an
we'll just
infinite number,
briefly, I mean,
or a finite number, excuse me. not-
the reality is that just,
Yeah, finite.
because Mansfield makes up a larger portion of the school, that student enrollment allows us to sort of absorb the increases a little bit easier than Ashford and Wellington. So there's more of a willingness from, my perspective as a Mansfield representative, from what I hear in Mansfield, to have some increases, more of a, I mean, it's more practical for Mansfield because, if we lose 10 students, that's not much of a hit versus if Wellington or Ashford lost 10 students, that could mean a 10% increase just for your portion of the budget. So anyway, so I say that to preface, I think what worries me is like, the director example, I mean, having 4 staff members who are not teaching a single class. And that's excluding counseling and excluding special. So that's excluding those 2, but the other 4, having 4 directors of departments that aren't teaching classes, I mean, that adds up to almost $500,000. So, I mean, we need to look at things structurally, and I don't, that's just not sustainable, and I get the whole idea of we want them to be able to, assess how our teachers are doing. But couldn't they do that by teaching 2 or 3 classes? I'm talking about this year's budget.
Yeah.
I I understand right now this budget, I'm in support of what you have put forward in the revised option one. I'm ready to vote on that. I think it looks good, but, when we're talking about restructuring, when we're talking about, you know, if this 115 number is real, I mean, that's staff. I mean, if it is real, that's staff. And one of the first places we should look is where we have staff members who are directors who aren't teaching classes. I'm not saying to cut positions, but I'm just saying have them teach a couple classes. So if we have retirements coming up, if we have staff members who are moving, you can sort of absorb positions. I mean, to me, as we're looking to next year, and I'll be a board member next year, I wouldn't feel comfortable on voting in favor of a budget that doesn't at least consider that.
So I would want you to be thinking carefully, and here's why. So there's been a lot of work done to try and bring EO Smith, and this is gonna sound how it's gonna sound. Filters off. In a district like Region 19, we have just as many schools as K-12 districts. You've heard this story before, right? Where there is a lot of middle management to make sure that there are structures and systems in place to function appropriately for oversight and accountability, and for there to be ongoing progress and progression. We now have a curriculum. We did not forever. Nothing in writing. We got dinged. And by NEAS, it took a heavy lift on the part of leadership to get us to a place, and actually took COVID money to be able to hire folks to help us get there. Some of that's been reduced over time. We weren't able to sustain one of those positions. Curriculum is not something that just you're one and done. It's a consistent, constant process. We talk about that. Directors are a big part of that. Helping to write the curriculum and oversight of it includes the CIA piece, but it also includes the work of the directors on the daily, being in the PLCs, which meet every single day, to make sure that the written curriculum and the taught curriculum and the assessed curriculum are the same curriculum. And that's all connected to this grading and reporting policy that's in place. That's in place for a reason as well, because this oversight hasn't been in place. Additionally, districts of this size with this number of students in our area, we look at an Ellington, we look at a Tolland, a Bolton, a Stafford. They have a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, a business manager, an HR director, et cetera, to keep things moving. And they have, potentially have either curriculum coordinators or directors and, things like that. I would be far more inclined to say directors should be teaching if there were other systems in place to help keep those pieces that now we currently have created over the past 6 years. If we had other middle management, that's a word that, for lack of a better word, middle management processes to oversee in place to keep things moving and to keep us moving in a way that other districts have had for a really long time.
Yeah.
It was a missing link here for a really long time. And as our numbers get smaller, some of those decisions may have to be made, but it is a challenge here for everybody to wear so many hats and to do so many things that without the support. And so the decisions made with the directors wasn't made haphazardly. It was, how do we provide support to teachers in making sure that they have the instructional support in writing, revising, and implementing consistently the curriculum and the assessment as we move forward.
And addressing many, many other initiatives. And I'll just support what Sharon said. And then we'll get back to the question of, and what our job really is. If we collectively say, yeah, you've got to come in with more reductions, as we've done in other years.
Right.
It's up to them to figure out how that happens.
Right.
We're not micromanagers. of this. We certainly have opinions, but I will just say that having worked here in a role that in other districts would have had more than me, because we're so small, so to speak, doesn't take away the fact that the state, the federal government still requires that we do a variety of things. And I can say that I worked here, every administrator here works more hours than I think administrators work in districts that have multiple levels of middle managers. It's typical to have curriculum coordinators in other districts. It's typical to have assistant special ed directors. It's typical to have assistant superintendents. And as Sharon indicated, other people doing things that we just have never been able to do because of our size. A one school district is almost a curse in many ways. So I would just caution us to trust that we're trying to meet all the requirements of the kids, the state, and the federal government with a very limited set of players and no middle managers. And so it took a number of years to get to the point where the administration put in place a pretty workable set of people to oversee a variety of things that we are required to do and oversee. And there are things that we've lost along the way because we don't have enough people. I mean, we don't write a lot of grants because we don't have an independent grant writer. Many districts do. So you get my point. So I would just say that I think it's if what you're saying or what we say to Sharon is go back and even if we don't ultimately agree with it, do what we've done every year. Come back with blank, blank, and blank until, you know, we've got an image of what it looks like in terms of the percentages that the districts would have to contribute. But it's up to them to figure out how to do that reduction. And Sharon may have some more tricks in her bag, as you indicated, for the next time we meet, which is next Tuesday. So I would just caution us to not be trying to run the school.
So I just want to respond quick. I totally understand that and I agree. And in terms of this year's budget, I'm in full support. And when you have an increase as marginal as this is, Sharon has done a great job. Amanda's done a great job. They've done an amazing job. The directors we have incredible staff. We have incredible directors. We have incredible administration. We have incredible teachers. That's the truth. But what I'm saying is if we're looking at serious increases potentially in the budget and decline in enrollment.
You're talking about for future budgets? I'm
talking about future budgets because it came up in conversation in regard to this budget. If we're having those conversations, part of our job as the board is to vote on a budget that represents the communities that we represent. In a situation like this, when there's marginal, it's like, yeah, I 100% trust Sharon to make those core decisions. But if we're talking about extreme increases and we're talking about structural changes in the budget that might need to happen in the coming years, we got to have some sort of a say in that. And sort of to Sarah's point, we got to be in touch with what our community members want. We got to be in touch with what the needs are. And that's what, right. And that's the role that we play to help inform Sharon of, in Mansfield, Sharon, that's just not going to fly. And so that's the role that we play.
Well, it's
So I'll leave it there.
clarify that you're talking about future budgets there.
Talking about future budgets. And like I said, I'm in full support of the revised option one that you put out.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna back up what you said. I think that's true that when we answer to Mansfield voters and they're like, well, who's teaching what? Why aren't there enough teachers to offer this and this and this? Is it true that there's some people who are qualified teachers who are in that school who are not teaching? I think that is something that comes out in a budget conversation, that comes out of voters, and it comes out, we'll talk about whether they want to support the budget for the school.
Sure.
And so that question, like when largely the carpentry, for example, that sort of the oversubscribed carpentry, there's a lot of kids from Wellington and Ashford in there too. In fact, it's mostly when I asked Earl about that, it's like most of those kids are from Wellington and Ashford. And my son will also be really, really eager to get it when he doesn't. I'll want to know too, well, why is there a director overseeing that who's not also teaching if that's what we need, because that class is always oversubscribed and it's totally important for a career after school. And that's about the quality, but that's about the programming, and it's about jobs at the end of it.
Well, and I think that also that point, but specifically that point keeps us competitive, I think, or helps to offer some competitiveness to some of the other schools, like the tech schools. You know, it keeps students here.
Yeah, so it's not all, like kind of advanced math, it's also poetry.
Right.
There's a misunderstanding that we're not offering courses because we don't have enough teachers. I think, the
Right.
carpentry piece is different. We don't have a director who can teach carpentry.
Right.
Or a department head for that matter, because it's a specialized certification that we've tried to hire someone for. There isn't anybody. Earl was a Christmas miracle. Because, as was Alan Niskanen. But I think we are still offering so many courses. I mean, when we reduce teachers, or we look at, we look at the courses that we offer, it's totally based on class size and the fact that, can we still run the courses we have based on the number of students who want to be in them? So, when there are courses that don't run, it's generally because kids don't sign up for them, or not enough kids sign up for them. Does that mean that, there are courses that are, when you have 5 sections of AP Psych, might we not be able to run 6? Maybe, but I mean, it's a nice problem to have, but, offering 5 sections of AP Psych is great, but there are other social studies classes that have to be taught. And, I think understanding the value served in having administrative positions and understanding that those administrative positions aren't taking away educational learning opportunities for kids by not being in the classroom. It's almost like saying, Sharon, you can teach. Why aren't you teaching as a superintendent?
And you did.
Which I did. I did.
You did a great job.
I did. It was super fun and I loved it, but it killed me because there were parts of my job as superintendent that did not get done or did not get done.
And
well.
that's the rub.
Right.
You can't do everything.
And it killed me because I don't feel like I did anything well. I could have been a better teacher that year. And I could have definitely been a better administrator that year. But, but my role was to be a superintendent. And
so over time, so back to what we have to take care of now. Next time we meet, I presume you will have some additional thoughts. And that may or may not reduce us a little bit more. And we've done that annually where the superintendent does bring back in a few more iterations. But I think I said this the last time we met. Sharon, knowing that this has been tough for Wellington and Nashua, came in with a lower budget than has been typical of our superintendents in past years. It used to be the case that, back to Bruce, come in with a loaded budget and then you could do 50 iterations and then we'd get to something we all
strategy.
But that was a strategy and Sharon's avoiding the strategy by coming in pretty basic to begin with. So I would just say that certainly we've got some lowering going on. There may be some more as of next week, but beyond that, there may not be a whole lot without cutting into something that we've committed to for the time being. Now, as we go into looking about future budgets, there may be a time when we want to look or at least have a presentation on the job descriptions of the various players in the building.
absolutely.
And that's definitely something board personnel does that all the time. We can look at so that we have a better understanding of what we are required to accomplish here and who's doing it and how it's getting done. Then we can support it better.
Could you throw transportation in there?
Transportation.
Buses.
Well,
Yeah.
that's in terms of, can we not have them anymore?
Oh, no, you have to have them by law.
Okay.
No,
You could streamline them.
Well-
I've been saying it for 20 years.
Yeah.
You could streamline the buses.
Yeah, and
You could
that's,
streamline the buses.
yeah, and I think that's a conversation that all 3 towns have all the time.
And for 20 years,
Yeah.
the conversations have been had and it's never been done. But it's expensive. And when you get stuck out there,
Yeah.
did a couple of days ago, I'm counting the 38 empty buses.
I know,
leaving
it
school.
drives us all crazy. Yeah.
It's incredibly frustrating.
What, that's another whole presentation. Back in the day, the olden days, we were able to use much smaller vehicles to pick up kids. And then a number of anecdotes resulted in massive changes in laws that required us to put all children on large vehicles, even if there's just one. Now, so we are encumbered by some very.
Our town lines run real close to each other.
I'm on a road where the Ashford and Mansfield buses
It's
meet in the middle.
I also
know.
want to plant the seed, and Amanda,
Yeah,
you can
thanks,
jump
Bruce.
in on
That's
this too,
a
that
good reminder.
there is a mandate at some point of going to electric buses that I'm really hoping goes
Yeah.
away, but right now it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but stay on that, Therese, because
Is it-
you never know.
Can you forbid parents from picking up and driving? I know, but it's just.
Hey,
We'd have to pay.
I do want to ask.
Can I ask, oh, sorry, I just wanted to ask, real quick, on, because I wanted to talk about the buses myself, is that, you know, every meeting, the student representatives bring up the afternoon bus. And actually, I'm hearing from, parents myself, and so I was just wondering is there, like, is there, you know, if we were to have afternoon buses, what would that look like? Is that even? I mean, because people are asking for it.
4.5.
Like, do we, you know, is it just
For late buses.
violence? Yeah, the afternoon buses. I feel like it's an equity problem. So, but it's like people ask for it, but then I feel like nothing happens. And I was just curious.
So I have math, I don't have it here with me,
That's fine.
but I did get some quotes from, our bus company. There's certainly pros and cons to it as far as, and Amanda and I have talked a lot about it, for various reasons.
I'd
know,
like to
they-
just add that when I went to EO Smith, we did have late buses and they were not heavily utilized. There were very few children on it because they went too early for kids to go to sports and then take the late buses. So there were only a handful of children who went to clubs that were able to use the buses, and it is a really high cost for only a handful of students, just to throw that out there.
But I'll bring the math.
Yeah, we can still look at it.
I understand, but I think that, I mean, but we're hearing from people. I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, I think it's a matter of managing them, like whatever we have. I mean, it's meeting the children at the time that they need to be met. I don't know, like, you know, but I understand it's, you know, maybe it's next year, you know, maybe it's, you know, like, you know, and maybe the whole thing needs to be looked at if there's, you know, 15 buses leaving without any students. I mean, that doesn't sound very efficient to me.
The challenge with that is that we have to provide transportation for any student who wants to, who could take a bus. We can't make them take the bus.
Let's have a
But we
bus
can-
meeting sometime.
Yeah.
Where we talk about the ins and outs of that.
And this is,
clear understanding.
this is true all over, so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
perhaps there's some ideas floating around, because it's true all over.
I mean, it's not good for the environment either, and I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Streamline the routes, like there's, I think that there is.
Well, you gotta get the towns to.
Gotta get the towns.
Yeah, so there's a,
Well, which leads me back to regionalization fully.
stay with that, Therese. Thanks for coming, stay with that.
Good to see you, Teresa.
I
Yeah.
do want to ask one more question.
Yeah,
And it doesn't have a big budget impact, but I came away from Dan's presentation on the summer athletic program that he was not selling it in a big way. And I would like, when you come back for the next meeting, you know, if we continue does he have ideas to address those issues that he could work within, or should we just consider getting rid of it?
Well,
And
go ahead.
liking it or not liking it means it was effective or not effective.
Well,
I
I mean, I
think
think
we
he
take
has some questions about whether it was effective or not.
I mean,
Wasn't there also one or two sports where the teacher coach just wasn't gonna come back to? Wasn't there some comment about that, or they didn't feel it was worth it? And it was one of the better attended ones.
Yeah.
So like, is there even a way to have it again anyway? Like, do we
you
even
didn't say
have,
who it was though. It could be one of the coaches that runs a paid
right, like, who knows?
program in that locally that
Right.
would
but I
rather
guess-
just have all their kids do that.
Right,
I guess I
guess
would
I'm
just like,
thinking
I would just like
Yeah.
to come back and because
Yeah.
it's been left hanging out there and
Right.
I didn't come away from his presentation with a real like, this is great,
Right.
you know?
Maybe he was trying to talk us out of it.
Well, certainly Sharon will have to talk to him before he gets blindsided by us cutting it.
No, I don't want to do, I mean, that's what I feel, I want to hear from him what he thinks.
And he knew that that was gonna be a conversation. Yeah, he purposefully tried to create a presentation that showed kind of the good, the bad and the ugly of, you know, what went well, what didn't go well.
Great.
We, with the idea of, you know, if this was something that the board wanted to, you know, created the conditions for. I mean, we took money out of an account that is, you know, non-renewable to a certain degree. And that, well, it's renewable, but it's not fast enough to fund it every year. And, you know, knowing that it would have to be in the operating budget. So that really is the question. And that was the purpose of the presentation, is based on what you heard, the good and the bad, you know, ultimately, is it value served? So it did create some value for some students. There are some concerns regarding injury and, you know, and things like that. And the question is, and I think Kathleen's point is a good one, you know, are there better uses of that funding for, you know, for other programmatic?
And that's why I'd like to hear, you know, I mean, I know he gave the good, but he raised some concerns and I would really like to get a sense of how he would run it, you know, how we would do it if we did it to address those, because
Alan's jumping.
I would say that I have a three-sport athlete at the school, and at the beginning of the summer, when this started, Dan had concerns. Dan wasn't into it. So the fact that his presentation wasn't overly energetic about it doesn't surprise me at all. Just from my perspective, and having, you know, a student athlete that participated in it, and there was a lot of participation in it. And I would say that like a couple hundred students, I think, participated in it. I don't know how many eighth graders are in Ashford this year are coming here. Is it like 35?
it's not a full time.
Yeah.
So 35, so maybe roughly half of them are the advanced on the math side, like 17, and maybe out of that, do you think 10 want to do summer school?
Well, I don't think.
I'm just saying,
I
like,
don't think it's gonna quote, I just think it's a
It's like,
question
you know,
of.
I'm just saying, like, it's
did
like the stuff
did
we're talking about now, it's
and
like.
and does he have a plan for addressing what some of those negatives were? I just don't, I think we need to.
Legitimately mitigate the negatives.
Yeah.
Legitimate questions.
So, the summer athletics is the 30,000.
Is it 30 or 40?
30,000, okay. So summer athletics is 30,000. So if you split that up between the towns, that's a $6,000 difference for Ashford. That's a $17,000 difference for Mansfield and a $7,000 difference for Wellington. So I understand the conversation, but like even filling in somewhere, I mean, I read through the budget that you presented. I mean, I don't know where $30,000 would go in much or change much one way or another. So looking at what we have potentially to look at next year, I'm all for keeping the 30,000 in there and just talk about next year. And I'm very comfortable with what you proposed.
Yeah, I don't think, I didn't propose this as a money issue. I proposed this as an issue that if we continue it, does he have a plan on how to mitigate some of the concerns he had? And that's.
It just sounded like he was worn down by, you know, it's like no good goes unpunished, you know, like, I think.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work,
maybe
and then there's
considered.
always parents and you know, kids and whatever. Oh, can you do this? Or, oh, I didn't get that. I mean, on the other hand, like I said, I'm not a sports person, but I could see value, you know, it's like just because you're an academic person, doesn't mean you can't see the benefit for these scholar athletes and it really was good for kids in Ashford and Wilmington. It really was.
Yeah, Kathleen.
Thanks, and I was just, of course, and I was also a sort of sport kid and, you know, I wouldn't want, like, it would be a shame if one of those came at the cost of another, and they're probably not even equivalent expenses, but when people, I was thinking about like ways when people think about what they need, it should be on all levels. But just while you're talking to Dan, I was wondering if, you could also ask him, a little bit about the, I always wonder about gender equity in sports because I am a sports person. And so like in the summer program, but also in the other programs here, that are grouped, they don't kind of break out in terms of sports. And I know that obviously some sports like football are gonna be probably more expensive than others. So I'm just curious, like how that all in the budget kind of breaks down and if there's a gender equity, as far as what the department is spending on sports. I don't mind.
So just a comment, I mean, it sounds to me like Alan, a parent, you were involved in the summer program?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and you had, it seems like you had positive experience.
I did, yeah. And I mean, I want my son like coming here, 3 nights a week to, work out or play soccer or lacrosse.
Yeah.
Or those things, versus like jumping his dirt bike or whatever.
And personally, I think that if that was offered,
Injury.
if I was coming up, as a new high school student and I knew that I could participate in a summer program, if, again, especially if for women or young girls who wanted to improve, I'd be there too, I mean, that would be my choice of activity for the summer. So I think, I guess, I think there's, I don't know, I'm not so sure that, that Dan had some concerns, but I'm not sure that the concerns are 100% valid.
Well, Sharon can do her homework and talk to him a little bit about where his head and heart are. We don't have to make this decision
Right.
tonight. We have another workshop.
I mean, the
coming up.
injuries, it's a 1-year thing, and they also never included how many of those injuries were players that participated in the summer or not. It
Right.
was just
Right,
a net number of injuries, so it's like, did that person actually do anything, or are they playing
right,
on a travel team
right.
all summer?
A lot of our kids are doing that, yeah.
But I think, like that, we should take into consideration a parent's point of view.
Yeah,
In addition to Dan's, like I mean, I saw Dan's presentation and I thought it was really good, but actually hearing Alan talk about it, actually, I'm like, that this is, to hear that, his son can go 3 times a week or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
We can also have him let us know, like, I'm sure he's polling his coaches, because that was also a big piece that someone brought up earlier too. How many of our coaches, after going through it a year, some were not
Oh, yeah.
thrilled about doing it in the first place. Some of it did it, some of them did it and loved it, thought it was great. Some of them did it begrudgingly because it was somewhat offered by CIAC. So, how many of our coaches are actually willing to do it, especially since so many of our coaches are employees of the school? That was something that he brought up too, is the, the concern.
And
is-
some of them coach these summer.
Right, so
Private leagues
I can
stuff.
ask and see if he's polled his coaches to see kind of what the temperature is. with-
Yeah, and then ask him, as the board looks at places to cut, is he gonna object strongly if we take away the summer program? Then you might see a different emotion. Then we might say, no, I really want this. I think we don't know yet, so. We'll
Alan,
do
you
that.
saw a lot of young girls participating, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought he was talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, there were.
So can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
For me. So I'll have my conversations with Dan and kind of bring that information back. I will definitely bring, I don't know why it's not in my folder, but I've been playing with the transportation numbers. Just to have, so that we kind of have a baseline, what we're talking about here. But any further conversation and any talk about options gets into, I really only have one option. It shows several, but it's one option broken down into a few different choices. And it does involve a position. So I do need to have a conversation with that individual. So if we're talking about, you want me to bring a legit reduction forward next week, I need to have that conversation with that person to let them know that we'll be discussing the position, which is why I didn't show any of those options tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking toward that direction.
I'd say no.
I thought it was your original budget presentation. It was so lean and you said to us, okay, did you have some suggestions for cuts? And we're all like, I didn't want to open my mouth at all.
I want to spend more money, Sarah.
Yeah. And it's like, my only concern, I mean, I'm kind of having in my mind the strategy of presenting what we would really like to have. We're not, making it a fat thing. But if something went away, we'd still be okay. I mean, we could still manage. So, I think considering Ashford's, position last year, how difficult that was for them to get their budget. And I don't know what's going to happen in Wellington. I cannot sit through a total finance meeting without, turning music on or something in the background. I do Zoom because I can't stand to be there in person. But it's like, I don't know what's going to happen in our town. I really don't for the budget, so.
You had a really hard time last year, right?
We have a
We had some
lot of very loud people that want absolutely no increase whatsoever for any reason of anything, which
Right.
is not realistic in any world ever. And they happen to be very vocal about that compared to people who might more understand that it's impossible to not increase anything. But I think that a lot of other people hear that and then they're like, yeah, 0 sounds good. It's like, okay, cool in a fantasy world, but like, that's not possible. It's hard to pick out the reasonable thoughts
But
after that.
reasonable people do outvote them. Like if you look at,
Yes, generally,
like-
eventually.
we're sitting there.
Once they see they're not gonna have any kind of a budget unless they just.
Well, we're sitting there listening to spending money for education types of things. And then all of a sudden, the crazies have gotten up and spoken and, people are trying to be reserved. And then all of a sudden we have a vote and it's like 54 against 25. No.
I was just gonna ask what the numbers actually were. So it always passes by quite a bit.
Eventually.
Well, that's just for
Last year,
one
it
meeting.
took three,
It took a couple last.
Did Ashford vote in
they passed, you passed.
Ours
last year.
passed, yeah.
by how many, was it like 50 votes or something?
Just, but, huh?
Was it like by 50?
Yeah, something, but I know it passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 of what?
Ashford's budget passed.
But I mean, like, out of how many?
We had to go 3 times.
400?
I think we had
Or 500.
before we passed last year.
That's what I
Wellington
need
failed.
to say, oh, but
Region
we
19, yeah. No, Region
Yeah.
19.
Well,
failed.
Can I
Yeah.
add something to this? So I just think you all should be aware that the region's budget barely passed. It only passed by approximately 30 votes last year. Mansfield turnout was terrible and Willington voted no. They wanted no increase, which I totally get. That's the vibe they're with, but we need to keep that in mind as we present this to our towns.
Mansfield canceled out Willington and then
And Ashford passed the vote.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
That was some, yeah.
Probably more than that, but never.
So,
Well, part of the dilemma for Mansfield is it's an independent referendum where Wellington and Ashford's referendums are on the same day as their budget votes.
Right.
Yeah, so we have this baby out there that nobody,
Yeah.
knows about or pays attention to. And we have a little bit of a PR problem with Mansfield, which I tried to work on last year, Amanda, and we didn't make much headway.
So
Mansfield,
last year Mansfield included it in their budget and brief, which did get out in time before the referendum.
yeah, but they didn't advertise it the way other things are advertised. There were no mailers that went home saying.
No, it was
Region
on
19
the budget and brief mailer that went out for the town's budget. It was right on the back side, actually. It's the first thing you would have seen.
Right, but it came out the week before the referendum.
That is true.
Yeah, so this year, we need multiple efforts to get our voters to do what it is they really should be doing.
And I'm not talking.
But that's a different issue.
referendum, and I use those
Okay.
numbers.
Right, yeah, that wasn't the other.
So you have what you need for next time?
Well, so not really.
I still don't know. What else do I need for us?
But I'm kind of hearing mixed signals around, if we want to have the conversation around what potential options can look like, then I really do need to have that conversation with the individual, and I'm okay having the conversation. We can have the conversation. It won't be a big surprise, because it was a conversation we had last year as well. So I can have the conversation.
Well,
then we can discuss.
I guess the question is this an essential position?
It is a non-student facing position, and it's a position we discussed last year.
Okay.
Do I feel it's an important position? I do, but it's a non-student facing position, and if we have to make an additional cut, it is the position that I would recommend. So, simply because it is not another classroom.
Right.
So.
So is it gonna make that much of a difference?
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing. I don't
right.
know that it.
I would appreciate it if you do.
Could we maybe take a vote on that? Just see.
Sure, that would be democratic.
It'd be more of a consensus, I think. but-
Yeah.
All right, so the implication here is that, if we want to, we could decide that we don't want to cut the position ultimately, but in order for Sharon to even have that conversation with us, she has to talk to the intended person. So the question is, do we want to rock that boat now? And is this the right time? It's the only time? Is it the only time?
I think.
Yeah, because we might need to reduce further. That's the question. So does Sharon talk to this person in preparation for us reducing the budget further or not? So I guess this is a quick and fast decision that we.
It's hard to say because we don't know what this position is at all.
Well, some of us do.
Right.
This
some of us do,
person,
but,
I'm
like,
assuming this
yeah,
person has a life,
Yeah.
mortgage, and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and has been doing a very valuable service for us, especially through some of the transitions from COVID till now. But it's a non-student facing position for sure.
Would this person leave? If they didn't?
I don't want.
The question is whether, I think the question is whether there's anyone that wants it lower than what is proposed.
Yeah, that's a good way
That's
of
it.
framing it, yeah.
Okay. I can deal with
Cause
it.
I do not, and I'll say it for the last time.
I don't want the budget. I don't want us to go lower.
Show of
I
hands
sense
is
majority.
what? What are you asking for?
People who are in favor of her not doing this,
Option one.
option one, and go with that.
There we go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's.
Okay.
That being said, if our budget goes down, we've got to come back and do something.
Well, that's
Which has
different.
never happened to us, but
No, until May.
yeah, we won't know until May. All right, is that okay?
Yeah,
Are you
that's
good with
fine.
that?
Yep.
All right.
I'm all for like working on that, you know, like selling, like what EO does, how great EO is, like why our budget is the way it is to the public.
Yeah, we gotta go. We gotta get out there.
I think it's a great school and I'm a visual person. I don't know.
I agree. I think we agree that we really could use a PR packet.
Yes.
And the idea of showing what our fixed costs are is always important because in general, busy people don't pay attention to what, why is this budget, why do the schools take up anywhere from 75 to 90% of the town's resources? And it's largely fixed costs.
And I think we need.
I don't think it would matter whatever I say. I don't think that the PR is gonna land the way I want it to with the people who are gonna vote for this are already gonna vote for it in my town, I think. And I think if I had this really nice PR packet about that we want the best education for our kids, there are people, when I have done canvassing for a new school. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Really not. About the kids. I've had people say that.
I sort of going off of Deborah's point. I think every single year, Wellington and Ashford, the work you do in terms of communicating the budget to your respective towns is incredible. And I think really each year, what we can count on is Wellington and Ashford to come out pretty even to vote. And so I think what we need to do this year, especially in Mansfield, is turnout.
Yeah,
And
Mansfield
turn up, yeah, and so it's on us, and so it's on the Mansfield representatives, and I, having read through this budget, the more transparency on this, the better. If people had an understanding of what the budget is, I could guarantee you it would pass.
Well,
But they have to have a clear, well, but
they need
they
to
have
know
to have
something.
clear understanding of what it is,
I don't
so.
think the turnout problem is not understanding the budget. I think it's just
Well, they need to understand that it's out there for a vote. They need to
Yeah.
understand what the budget
Yeah.
does, so it's.
Well, and you know, and no amount of PR is gonna change the minds of the crazies.
Oh, well, yeah, we're not going for those.
Yeah, I mean, so you're really going.
With all due respect.
If the crazies are gonna vote for it,
Don't
though.
even care.
Yeah.
You have to get the people out.
Well,
That's
I
the deal.
This is not public.
Yeah.
Okay, so we probably, when we're having public meetings, should, are we good? Should be cautious.
Okay, so you're not gonna have to.
I say it again.
You're not gonna have to speak to.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
School,
All right.
but if we are good, I'm just gonna shut the live stream down.
Yeah, let's shut the live stream down.